Okay, straight down the flow of the last speech, he argues that animal testing is only our best shot because we have focused on it for so long and have not funded alternatives. Whether this is true or not, my opponent concedes here that in the status quo, animal testing is still our best option, and as soon as we pass a blanket ban on all animal testing, we are immediately left without our most viable option for medical and pharmaceutical tests. He even admits that it could take months to years for our alternatives to equal the level of animal testing. In this world, major medical advancements like the new cancer superdrug that is in development will be halted in their tracks while we wait for our alternatives to get up to speed. This results in more loss of life among humans and animals who all benefit from medical advancements. It is much more ethical for everyone involved to allow animal testing to continue, only hold it under the same standards as human testing, where the animals are not treated cruelly, but with the utmost respect. Next, he argues that alternatives produce the same results as animal testing, but this is fundamentally untrue. I provided a plethora of examples in my last speech where only a living, breathing body is viable for testing. Without living test subjects, we can no longer research these crucial issues. He can in no way prove that alternatives will be able to replace this, and he definitely could not even begin to tell you when alternatives will replace this. He calls me anthropocentric, but I'm just pointing out that in the status quo, they're simply not viable, and he can't prove that they will be. I'm actually being the polar opposite of anthropocentric in my speech by actually arguing through my counter-advocacy that we finally put humans and animals on the same playing field by raising animal testing standards to the same standards that humans enjoy. Next, he says I ignore failed treatments from animal testing that have not produced any cures, and that cases where animal testing is good does not outweigh negative impacts. Unfortunately, there's no guarantee that a testing mechanism will work, and it often functions by trial and error. Keep in mind that advancements that do come from animal testing solve medical problems for humans, animals, and all their generations to come, so it arguably outweighs. However, more importantly, my counterplan solves best for this by raising animal testing standards per IRB definition, so that, like humans, testing must be deemed necessary and also has to be completely ethical without resulting in purposeful death. So, in this world, we are still working toward medical advancements but suffer no animal loss of life if the tests fail. Next, he says that increased funding on alternatives gains solvency, but never did he mention increasing funding on alternatives in his original speech. That is not part of the plan, so he's giving us a moving target here. I cannot successfully defend a plan that is continually changing. This is abusive, and he needs to be dropped on the voters of fairness and education. He calls my agreement with him on ethics laughable and says this is a disad. I think that this disad is laughable. It's not structured. He doesn't give you any impacts on how my laughability is harmful to society and the world as a whole, so please drop it and refuse to engage in these frivolous and offensive arguments. Next, on my stuff about the testing spread, he basically says that animals can be tested on against their will and humans cannot. With this statement, he ignores that some humans can be tested on against their will, like children or incompetent patients. Similarly, under the regulations that IRB follows, if we begin holding animal testing to the same standards, the owner of any given animal would be asked to give consent on any testing and could elect to stop the testing at any time. Next, he says that my claim that human testing will increase after a blanket ban makes no sense. However, I clearly explained to you why this will occur. He himself fully admits that animal testing is still our best shot and that it will take months to years to develop fully usable alternatives. In the world where we need a living, breathing body to test certain reactions on and animal testing is banned, humans become the only option left. As so often happens, the humans who elect to this compensated testing will be the poor, the disenfranchised, and those not protected by American laws. Unless he can prove 100% solvency from technology and alternatives, which he can't, he drops the round on this point. On my counter-advocacy, his only argument is that his blanket ban is the only thing that gives animals and humans equal rights. This is just fundamentally false because he is elevating animals above humans here, not equalizing them like my plan does. His final argument is that I have a tit-for-tat approach that ignores the history of harshness in animal testing. This is just really offensive because I think I have shown throughout the round that I care deeply about animal life and seek to find the best solution to preserve as much life as possible. Additionally, by derisively referring to my hard work in this round as a tit-for-tat approach, he is dismissing both me and my arguments in the rudest way possible, attacking me as a debater, and criticizing my rhetorical style and strategies. This is the most offensive thing I've ever heard. Please drop him right here and vote off.